Hi everyone, today we're going to be going into multi-step equations. We've solved one step, we've solved two steps. Now we're going to get into some that even have more than two steps. Our objective today is to use properties of equality, not inequality, properties of equality to solve multi-step equations. Okay, let's look at this one. It says 11 times a number, so that would be this, decrease by 8. So when we hear decrease, we should think subtraction. Minus 6 times the same number. So we want to use the same variable. 6 times the same number means equals 22. Well, where do we go from here? I would recommend that we combine our like terms to start with. I have 11n minus 6n. 11 minus 6 is 5n. Minus 8 is still there. Equals 22. Now, this should look familiar. This is a regular two-step equation now. Let's just add 8 to both sides. Send home our acquaintances, as we like to say. And we are left with 5n. My 8's have canceled out. Equals 30. Final step. Let's divide by 5. And n will equal 6. Now, when you get to problems that are more complicated, I strongly recommend you check them, or else you might get into an issue. So, here's our original equation. 11 times the number minus 8 minus 6 times the same number is 22. Well, we're saying that number is 6. So I'm going to put a 6 where the n was. And over here also. So 11 times 6, that's 66, minus 8, minus 36, 6 times 6, should equal 22. Now let's see, what is 66 minus 8? Well, that sounds a lot like 58 minus 36. Will get me 22. It's 58 minus 36, 22. If you get this point and you say, yeah, that's true, that's fine. Or else you can actually subtract it and say, yep, this is 22. And 22 definitely equals 22. So yes, my solution worked. Remember to clear the screen this time since I'm bad at that. Next problem. The product 5 and x divided by 3 plus 1 equals 16. Well, my 1 is further away from my 5x and 3, so I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. And I have 5x over 3 equals 15. Now, I can actually think of this in two different ways. I can think of this as 5/3 x, in which case I would multiply by the reciprocal. Or I could think of this as dividing by 3 and multiplying by 5. Either way, I should get the same answer. Because I said multi-step, I'm going to do it in two parts this time. So I'm going to multiply by 3, multiply by 3. My 3's cancel. And I'm left with 5x equals 45. My next step would be to divide by 5. And x would be 9. Again, I highly recommend you check them when you get these more complicated problems. 5 times x, I'm saying x is 9, divided by 3, plus 1. And my question is, does that equal 16? Well, 5 times 9 is 45. Divided by 3. If you have a calculator, check it with your calculator. You don't have to go through all of this extra work. Just make sure that you check it correctly. 45 divided by 3 is 15. And I know that 15 plus 1 does in fact equal 16. And I won't require you to go that one step further and say 16 equals 16. We know 15 plus 1 equals 16. That is fine. I already did the check, so I can move on. Next one, oh, I see parentheses, and I have a variable in there. I know I'm going to have to look at the distributive property. I'm distributing negative 8. Don't forget the negative. Negative 8 times 2x, and think of it as negative 8 times negative 1. Negative 8 times 2x is negative 16x. Negative 8 times negative 1, positive 8, equals 36. Now I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. This one doesn't look like it's going to be a very nice one. I get negative 16x. And when I subtract 8 from 36, I get 28. Wow, that doesn't look like a very nice answer because I have to divide both sides by negative 16. Now, for the most part, I would say you're pretty much done. But let's rewrite this. X equals, first of all, I have positive divided by a negative. So my fraction here is going to be a negative. And I can simplify 28 over 16 by dividing them both by 4. That gives me 7 over 4. You don't need to make it into a mixed number, a decimal. You can just keep it as an improper fraction, negative 7 over 4. Now, this isn't going to be as fun to check, but we're going to, because I always recommend that you check things. Oh, I missed. Gotta go back. I always recommend you check things when you have these complicated problems because they're the ones you're apt to make mistakes on. So I have negative 8 times 2, and my x was negative 7/4. And minus 1, close those parentheses, and decide equals 36. I hope so, or I'm going to have to start this video over and that won't be fun. Okay, so 2 is same as 2 over 1. I can simplify before I multiply. This would become a 1. This would become a 2. So that is negative times positive is a negative 7 over 2 times 1, 2. Minus 1. And then multiplying that whole thing by negative 8. And do I get 36? Okay, I need to rewrite this negative 1 with the common denominator. I am going to use 2. So negative 1 is the same as 2 over 2. I kind of took the lazy way out of that, but it takes me so long to write on here. So now I have negative 8 times, what's negative 7 minus 2? That's negative 9 over 2. And does that equal 36? Well, one thing I can see right away is I have a negative times a negative, so at least I know I'm going to get a positive answer. Simplify before you multiply. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. So now I have negative 4 times negative 9. That is a positive 36, so that looks good. And 1 times 1 is 1. I could put it over 1, but I don't need to. 36 does, in fact, equal 36. So my solution of, I didn't want to do that. My solution of x equals, what opened here? Not that. X equals negative 7/4 is correct. No idea what I pushed there. Okay, let's move on to our next example. I have all sorts of things going on. I have some distributing. I think we're combining like terms. I can't lose track of the fact that I have a minus here in front of that 4. So I'm going to distribute a negative 4 to both of my terms inside the parentheses. I'm going to write down my 6y. Negative 4 times negative 3y is a positive 12y. Negative 4 times positive 2 is a negative 8. And all of this should equal 10. Some of you I know don't bring down all of your numbers on both sides all the time. I kind of like to. It keeps me organized. Next, I have 6y plus 12y gives me 18y. Minus 8 equals 10. This one is going to be a nice answer. I can see that already. My next step, send home these acquaintances, add 8 to both sides. See that 18 that's coming there? I like that 18. 18 equals 18y. Now I just need to divide both sides by 18. And my answer will be y equals 1. Or 1 equals y, since my variable is on the right. Let's check it. 6 times my variable 1 minus 4 times negative 3 times 1 plus 2. Okay, so what do I have here? 6 times 1, that is 6, minus 4 times negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, plus 2. One thing I didn't mention, all of this should equal 10. That's what we're hoping for anyway. Well, negative 3 plus positive 2 will give me a negative 1. Now I have 6 minus 4 times negative 1. Well, this negative 4 times negative 1 is going to give me a positive 4. And 6 plus 4 does in fact equal 10. So this one also worked. Yay me. Next one. Okay, what do we have here? We have a negative we're distributing. We're also going to end up combining some like terms. Let's give it a try. Distribute the negative to the 4n and to the negative 1. So I have negative 5 minus 4n. And then negative times negative 1 makes that a positive 1. This will equal negative 17. I have some like terms to combine. Negative 5 and negative 4 is a negative 9n plus 1 equals negative 17. I'm thinking I'm liking this one too. I think we're getting a nice answer. Subtract 1 from both sides. No icky fractions this time again. Negative 9n equals negative 18. Divide by negative 9. Divide by negative 9. And n will be 2. Positive 2, because a negative divided by a negative will give you a positive. Now, I didn't leave myself a lot of room for checking this, so I'm going to do a little of it mentally. N is 2. So each of these is times 2. So negative 5 times 2 is negative 10 minus parentheses. Don't lose your parentheses. Negative 4 times 2 is 8 minus 1. And this is equal 17. Negative 17, I should say. So I have negative 10 minus 8 minus 1 is 7. Does that equal negative 17? And yes, it does. I have negative 10 and I subtract 7 more. I'm at negative 17. Let's try a couple word problems. General admission tickets for the fair are $3.50 per person. Notice we're solving for how many people. That's usually a clue. When you see the word per, that's where you're going to get a variable. Ride passes cost an additional $5.50 per person. There's my variable again, because I'm assuming we're going to have the same number of people getting the admission and ride pass. Parking is $6 for the family, so we only need that once. I'm assuming we're all riding together. My total cost was $51. We got a lot of keywords in there. So we have the $3.50 per person. Again, when you see that per, it's usually a clue that that's where a variable is going to be. So if one person went, it's $3.50. Two people, $7. 3 people, $10.50, etc. It's going to increase depending on the number of people. Then we're also buying ride passes that are $5.50 for every person also. And we have to park our car for $6. And we spent a total is a good clue that we have an equal sign of $51. Now I'm going to start by combining these like terms. $3.50 plus $5.50 is $9 per person. I'm going to drop the decimal now just to make it cleaner. And I would have a decimal over here. Plus 6 for parking will equal my $51. I'm going to draw my lines down now. Subtract 6. Subtract 6. And $9 times the number of people equals $45 for rides and admission. Divide by 9. Divide by 9. And each person, and there were a total of 5 people, I meant to say. 5 people. It's nice that it came out to a whole number because usually we don't like it when we get decimals if we're talking about people. We have a whole number of people going. Sorry, I kind of had a lot of things on there that I'm not going to go through. We already did that, so fast forward. That is it for today's lesson. If you have any questions, come and see me.